Now, if you're anything like me, the first two stages of the major were bittersweet. Sweet because we got to see some beautiful Counter-Strike. Bitter because your pick'ems are most probably dead. This is the major so far with GGBet. Well, here are your teams for the major playoffs. We've whittled down 24 teams to just 8. Amongst them, just 2 Danes, 3 if you include this guy, with the hopes and dreams of Denmark riding on their shoulders. No Astralis, no Heroic, no Ecstatic to be flying flag. But I want to start off with the positives. Let's look at the things that should be celebrated. And I'm going to have to eat my words here a little bit because Cloud9, against all my doubts, make it through to the top 8. They do it in brilliant fashion in the opening stage 3-0, moving on to the elimination stage 3-1. And to be fair, my concerns about the AWP, I think is still somewhat valid, but Boomage did do his best to quell any concerns for the time being. Sure, he admitted himself that he's not super comfortable with the situation at the moment, but they're making the best out of what is a tough situation to be in. The first stage was undoubtedly Hobbit showing up huge, the second was truly the Exile show. But tell you who did one better, Mouse. Against all the doubters, and despite losing arguably their best player at the tail end of last year, they absolutely bulldozed their way through the elimination stage. And I'm talking Cat D11T level of destruction. Just ask Complexity after that best of 3 series. Young Jimmy topped the charts to make it through to his first ever major playoffs. And of course, who could forget Eternal Fire? Only one member of the squad had ever tasted the sweetness of the playoffs before. That was Woxic all the way back in 2018 in London. They make history as the first ever Turkish squad to qualify for a major top 8. And we could see the emotions that filled Major after that victory, after dedicating over 15 years of his life to this very game. Also joining them are a dominant as ever Spirit, Vitality, FaZe, G2 and Na'Vi. m0NESY firmly led the charge for G2, if you can believe it, to his first ever major playoffs. FaZe, in typical FaZe style, leave it until just the last minute to edge it on through. And Vitality wasn't exactly a smooth road for them either. They had to rely on Flamesy to show up big in the final map versus Complexity. Of course, despite many of the teams not making it to the top 8, there were plenty of positive surprises along the way, namely from some of the underdog regions. Of course, South America being one of them. 3 out of 4 Brazilian teams made it from the opening stage to the elimination stage, and yeah, it was unfortunate to see Freya falling flat, but for Pain Gaming, they narrowly missed out on an opportunity to make it through to the playoffs. Biguzera undoubtedly made a name for himself at this event. And from the complete other side of the globe, the Mongols impressed by not only making it through to the elimination stage, but along the way earning yet another spot for Asia at the next Counter-Strike 2 Major. Although their run would end in a less glamorous fashion than it began, it's nothing to be sniffed at earning more representation for your region heading on forward. Now, I'm not usually one to be a Debbie Downer, but we've got to talk about the disappointments, right? Heroic's collapse was monumental. Having finished the opening stage 3-0, after they lost that tight best-of-1 versus Complexity, they seemed to crumble under the pressure. It was disappointing to see Nert, despite having a great opening stage, not really being able to continue that into their final match in the elimination stage. And 2 teams that fell out of gas from the very beginning, unfortunately ENCE and Apex, unable to even make it out of the first stage of the Copenhagen Major. But in more recent news, having Complexity start off so strong in the best of 1s, and then stumble, fumble, and crumble in the best of 3s, left a bitter taste in everybody's mouths. After they could only post 3 rounds in what was 2 maps versus Mouse, it seemed like everything spiraled out of control. No major shot for NA. But looking forward, the playoffs. This is what we have all been waiting for, and boy oh boy, do we have some sweet matchups coming our way. The banger that was Spirit versus FaZe back at Antwerp in the semi-finals now is going to be played once again, but with an entirely different narrative in the quarterfinals. On the same side of the bracket, Vitality versus Cloud9, who, in all fairness, have been quite familiar with each other in the past 6 months, namely back at the RMR where Cloud9 got the better of Vitality. On the other side, Eternal Fire versus Na'Vi, which of course we saw going down at IEM Katowice, and MOUZ are now going to be challenged with taking on a playoffs form G2. But we're going to have to wait for this to all be going down. So in the meantime, let us know your playoffs pick'ems down in the comments below. Not because I need the help. No, I'm just interested. Mine have been going perfectly so far.